The master bedroom was bathed in the clinical bluish glow of a smartphone screen. It was 10:45 p.m. in a high-rise apartment in Chicago. Outside, the wind howled off the lake, but inside, the silence was heavier. Emily stood in the doorway of the ensuite bathroom. She had just showered. The steam billowed out behind her, a warm ghost in the chilly room. She wore only a towel wrapped tightly around her chest. She paused, waiting. In the movies, the husband looks up. He smiles. He sees his wife clean vulnerable reel. Jason didn't look up. He was propped up against the pillows, his face illuminated by the harsh light of his iPhone 15 Pro. His thumb moved in a rhythmic, hypnotic motion. Swipe, swipe, tap, zoom. Emily cleared her throat. Hey. Jason grunted. He didn't break eye contact with the screen. Emily walked to the dresser. She caught her reflection in the full-length mirror. At 29, 18 months postpartum, her body told a story of survival. There were silver stretch marks on her hips like lightning strikes. Her stomach, once flat and hard from college track days, was now soft, yielding. She felt a wave of shame wash over her, hot and prickly. It was body dysmorphia triggered by the male gaze, or rather, the absence of it. She dropped the towel to put on her pajamas, an oversized t-shirt, armor. "Check this out," Jason said suddenly. His voice wasn't sleepy, it was animated. Emily turned, pulling the shirt down quickly. Would Jason turned the phone screen toward her. On the screen, an Instagram reel was looping. A woman, some fitness influencer in Miami, was doing squats in leggings that looked painted on. Her waist was impossibly small, her glutes surgically enhanced. She looked like a cartoon character drawn by a teenage boy. "Look at the definition in her quads," Jason said, shaking his head in admiration. "That is dedication, Em. That is discipline." Emily felt a cold knot form in her stomach. She's pretty, Jason. She's also probably 21 and uses filters. Jason scoffed. He tapped the screen, pausing the video on a close-up of the woman's body. He looked from the screen to Emily, then back to the screen. The comparison was silent, but it screamed. "It's not about filters, Emily. It's about effort. He gestured vaguely at Emily's oversized t-shirt. "When was the last time you hit the Peloton? It's just sitting there acting as a drying rack. I work 50 hours a week, Jason, and I chase a toddler. I'm tired. We're all tired." He snapped his tone, shifting from casual to cruel. "I work too, but I still hit the gym at 5 a.m. It's about priorities. You've just let yourself go. Let yourself go." The phrase hung in the air like toxic smoke. Emily walked to the bed. She wanted to scream. She wanted to say, "I let myself go to create your son. I let myself go to keep this house running." But she didn't. She climbed into bed, staying on the far edge. The space between them felt like a canyon. Jason wasn't done. He was scrolling again. The sound of a video played moaning, fake and high-pitched. He didn't even bother to mute it completely. It was soft but audible. He was watching soft-core porn, right there, beside her. "Jason, please," Emily whispered, closing her eyes. "Turn it off, relax. It's just Twitter." He chuckled darkly. "God, look at this one. Look at the skin. Flawless." He leaned over, shoving the phone into her personal space again. The image was explicit, a woman with perfect airbrush skin posing suggestively. "I wish you were half the woman she is," Jason muttered. The world stopped. Emily opened her eyes. The sentence echoed in her brain, bouncing off the walls of her skull. "I wish she were half the woman she is." It wasn't a joke. There was no humor in his eyes. There was only disappointment, and something worse, contempt. "What did you say?" Emily's voice was barely a whisper. Jason rolled his eyes, putting the phone down on the nightstand face up. "Don't be dramatic, I'm saying. Look at the potential. You used to be hot, Em. I'm just trying to motivate you. It's called tough love. If I don't tell you who will your friends, they'll just lie to you and say you look healthy." He turned off the lamp, plunging the room into darkness. "Good night," he said, pulling the duvet up. Within 2 minutes, his breathing evened out into sleep. Emily lay there, staring at the ceiling. She wasn't crying. The shock was too deep for tears. She felt like she had been punched in the gut. She reached out and touched her stomach. The soft skin, the scar from the C-section where they had cut her open to bring life into the world. Jason didn't see a miracle. He saw a defect. This wasn't just a bad husband, this was devaluation. This was the stage where the narcissist takes the object off the pedestal and starts chipping away at it, looking for cracks. He was bringing a third person into their bed, the digital woman, the phantom perfection, to make Emily feel small. It was triangulation in its purest, most modern form. The phone on Jason's nightstand lit up with a notification. Instagram, a fit goddess 99, just posted a new photo. Emily looked at the glowing rectangle. It was a portal to a world she couldn't compete with. a world of plastic pixels and lies. But Jason preferred the lie. She rolled over, turning her back to him. She pulled her knees to her chest, protecting her core. He wishes I was half of her. She thought, the pain finally turning into a dull, throbbing ache. But he doesn't realize I'm already twice the person he is. The thought surprised her. It was a tiny spark in the dark, a flicker of self-preservation. She closed her eyes, but she didn't sleep. She listened to the wind outside battering against the glass. Tomorrow she wouldn't go to the gym to please him. Tomorrow she would look in the mirror and see something else. She would see a woman who was done competing with ghosts. The invitation said black tie optional. To Emily, it read panic attack mandatory. It was the annual gala for Jason's architectural firm. A room full of glass walls, expensive scotch, and people who judged you based on the fit of your tuxedo. At 6:00 p.m., the bedroom looked like a war zone of silk and chiffon. 3 dresses lay discarded on the bed, pooling like puddles of failure. Emily stood before the mirror in the 4th option, a navy blue velvet gown. It was forgiving. It covered the arms. It draped over the stomach. She tried to zip it up. The metal teeth caught halfway up her spine. She sucked in her breath, holding it until black spots danced in her vision. Zip. It closed. But it felt like a corset made of iron. Are you ready? Yet? Jason's voice boomed from the hallway. He walked in. He looked impeccable. Of course he did. A bespoke Armani suit, his hair gelled to perfection, smelling of sandalwood and success. He was the picture of the modern alpha male. He stopped. He looked at her. He didn't smile. He tilted his head, calculating. The blue one, he asked. It wasn't a question. It was a criticism. It fits the best, Emily said, smoothing the fabric over her hips nervously. And it's cold out. Jason walked around her a slow orbit. He reached out and tugged at the fabric around her waist. It's a bit matronly, don't you think? It hides everything. But I guess with the weight you're carrying right now, hiding is the strategy. He said it casually, like he was commenting on the weather. I like it, Jason, she said, her voice small. Fine. Just wear the Spanx, the heavy-duty ones. I don't want any rolls showing in the photos. The partners are bringing their wives. You know, the trophy types. Try to keep up. He checked his watch. You have 5 minutes. Fix your hair. It looks frizzy. He left. Emily stood frozen. Try to keep up. She walked to the bathroom. She opened the drawer and pulled out the beige compression garment. It looked like a medical device. She wrestled her body into it. It squeezed her organs, making it hard to take a deep breath. She looked in the mirror. She looked smoother, smaller. But inside, she felt like she was suffocating. The gala was held at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the Chicago skyline. The city glittered below a sprawling grid of lights. Inside, the air smelled of truffles and expensive perfume. Jason transformed the moment they stepped out of the elevator. He grabbed Emily's hand, lacing his fingers through hers. He smiled, that dazzling million-watt smile that had charmed her 5 years ago. Doesn't my wife look lovely? He told the CEO, shaking his hand vigorously. Stunning, the CEO said politely. Emily smiled until her cheeks hurt. This was the performance. She was the prop, the supportive wife, the accessory. But as they moved through the crowd, Emily felt the tension in Jason's grip. It wasn't affection. It was a leash. His eyes were never on her. They were scanning the room, the wandering eye. He looked at the hostess in the tight black dress. He looked at the marketing director with the sculpted arms. He looked at anyone who wasn't Emily. They sat down for dinner. The table was set with heavy silverware and crystal glasses. The waiter arrived. Good evening. Can I start you with some drinks and perhaps some bread for the table? We'll take a bottle of the Cabernet, Jason said smoothly. And no bread. Thank you. Emily felt a pang of hunger. She hadn't eaten lunch because of the nerves. The warm sourdough roll in the basket looked like salvation. Actually, I'd love a piece of bread, Emily said softly to the waiter. Jason turned to her. His smile didn't waver, but his eyes went cold. Dead cold. Emily. He laughed a sound that invited the rest of the table to join in on the joke. You're being naughty. Remember our goal. Summer body is made in the winter, right? He looked at the waiter. She's kidding. No bread for her. She's watching her gluten intake. It makes her bloat. The waiter looked uncomfortable. Of course, sir. He took the basket away. The humiliation burned in Emily's chest, hotter than the shame in the bedroom. He had just treated her like a child. He had policed her body in front of his colleagues. Across the table, a woman named Chloe, the wife of a junior partner, watched the exchange. Chloe was thin blonde and ate nothing but the garnish on her plate. She gave Emily a look. It wasn't pity, it was recognition. She knows, Emily thought. She lives in the same cage. The main course arrived. Steak frites for the men, salmon for the ladies. Emily cut into her fish. She was starving. She took a bite. "Slow down," Jason whispered, leaning in close so only she could hear. "You're eating like you've never seen food before. Chew your food. Put the fork down between bites. It's disgusting." Emily put the fork down. Her appetite vanished, replaced by a lump in her throat that tasted like ash. So Jason, the man across from them, asked, "I saw your Instagram story this morning. 5 a.m. run impressive." Jason lit up. This was his favorite topic himself. Absolutely. The body is a temple, Mike. You can't build skyscrapers if your foundation is weak. Discipline in the gym translates to discipline in business. He gestured to Emily with his wine glass. "I'm trying to get Em here on the program, but you know how it is. Post-baby hormones. It's a struggle." He made her sound like a charity case, a broken object he was trying to fix. "It's been 18 months, Jason," Emily said. She hadn't meant to speak. The words just slipped out. The table went quiet. Jason turned to her slowly. "Excuse me. I said it's been 18 months since I had the baby. It's not hormones. I work full time. I take care of the house. I don't have time to run at 5 a.m. because I'm making your breakfast." The silence stretched. It was thick, heavy, and dangerous. Jason chuckled. It was a dark sound. "Wow, someone's cranky. I guess low blood sugar does that. Maybe you should have had that bread after all." The table laughed nervously. Jason had diffused the tension by painting her as the hormonal crazy wife. Gaslighting 101. Emily stood up. Her legs were shaking. "I need to use the restroom." The bathroom was an oasis of marble and silence. Emily locked herself in a stall. She didn't cry. She couldn't risk ruining her makeup. Jason would notice. She sat on the closed toilet seat, breathing deeply against the constriction of the Spanx. "Why do I stay?" The question floated up. She thought of their son, Leo. She thought of the mortgage. She thought of the fear of being alone, of being 30 with a ruined body and no confidence. "He's right," the voice in her head whispered. "Look at you. You're a mess. Who else would want you?" That was the trap. He destroyed her self-esteem so thoroughly that she believed he was doing her a favor by staying. The bathroom door opened. Voices. "Yi, did you see her dress velvet in October? It's a bold choice when you're size 12. It was the marketing director, the one with the sculpted arms." I know another voice laughed, "And Jason looks so good, like magazine good. I don't know how he deals with it." "Did you see him eyeing the hostess? I think he's starving for something." Tighter. "God, if I was his wife, I'd be at Pilates twice a day. He's a catch. Totally. She's just letting herself go." It's sad, really. The voices faded as they left. Emily sat in the stall. Her hands were gripping her knees so hard her knuckles were white. It wasn't just Jason. The world agreed with him. The world looked at Jason and saw a catch. They looked at Emily and saw a burden. She stood up. She walked to the mirror. She looked at the woman in the blue velvet dress, the woman who was starving, the woman who was being squeezed to death by expectations. She took a paper towel and wiped the corner of her eye. She wasn't angry at the women. They were brainwashed by the same system. She was angry at the lie. She walked out of the bathroom. Jason was waiting by the bar, holding court with a group of admirers. He saw her coming. He checked his watch. "Everything okay?" he asked when she reached him. "You were in there a long time. I was about to send a search party." "I'm fine," Emily lied. "Good, because I want to introduce you to Jessica. She's our new intern. She's a fitness competitor on the weekends." He pointed to a girl who couldn't be older than 22. She was glowing, firm, and looked at Jason with hero worship in her eyes. "Hi, Emily," Jessica chirped. "Jason talks about you all the time. He says you're an amazing cook. Cook. Not architect, not wife, not mother. Cook." Jason smirked. He put his hand on Emily's lower back. His fingers dug into the soft flesh above the Spanx line. A subtle pinch, a reminder. "Emily makes a great lasagna," Jason said, "which explains why I have to run so much, right, babe?" He winked at Jessica. Jessica giggled. It was a microaggression, a joke at her expense disguised as banter. Emily looked at Jessica. She saw the tightness of Jessica's dress. She saw the hunger in Jessica's eyes, not for food, but for validation. Run, Emily thought, looking at the young girl. Run while you can. But she said nothing. She smiled the smile of the trophy wife who had lost her shine. "I have a headache," Jason, Emily said quietly. "Can we go?" "We just got here." Jason snapped his smile, dropping for a fraction of a second. "Don't be a killjoy," he turned back to Jessica. "So tell me about your leg day routine. I need some new tips." He turned his back on Emily, literally and metaphorically. Emily stood there holding her empty clutch, surrounded by hundreds of people, yet completely alone. She looked down at the buffet table nearby. There was a basket of bread rolls. She walked over. Her hand trembled. She picked up a roll. She took a bite. It wasn't defiance. It was desperation. But as the bread dissolved in her mouth, she felt a tiny spark of rebellion. He could control her clothes. He could control her money. But he couldn't control her hunger. Not forever. The bathroom scale was not just a scale. It was a judge, a jury, and an executioner. It was a sleek black glass slab that Jason had bought a week after the gala. It was a smart scale. It didn't just display the weight, it measured body fat percentage, muscle mass, and visceral fat. Worst of all, it synced via Bluetooth directly to Jason's phone. Every morning at 6:30 a.m., Emily had to step on it. It was mandatory. She stood there now, naked, shivering in the morning light. The cold glass bit into the soles of her feet. Beep. The numbers flashed, 158 lbs. From the bedroom, Jason's phone chimed with the notification. Up 2 pounds! Jason's voice drifted in. He wasn't yelling. He sounded disappointed, like a parent whose child had failed a math test. Must have been that bread roll you snuck at the party. Carbs hold water, Emily. Basic biology. Emily stepped off the scale. She felt nauseous. She was living in a digital panopticon, a prison where the guard could see her every metric without even looking at her. I'm breastfeeding Jason, she called back, pulling on her robe. I need calories. The doctor said. Jason appeared in the doorway. He was already dressed for work, his abs visible through his fitted dress shirt. Doctors want you to be average, he said, adjusting his watch. I want you to be exceptional. Look, I bought you something, a booster. He placed a bottle of pills on the vanity. The label was bright orange, featuring a silhouette of a bikini model. Thermo Shred Extreme Fat Burner. I can't take these, Emily said, reading the label. High caffeine ephedrine extract, Jason. This can pass through the milk to Leo. I did the research, Jason lied smoothly. It's herbal, totally safe. Just take one. It'll kill that appetite of yours and give you energy to actually clean the house today. He kissed her on the forehead. It wasn't a kiss of affection. It was the kiss of a handler rewarding a compliant animal. Do it for us, Em. I want my hot wife back. He left. Emily stared at the bottle. Do it for us. She opened the cap. The smell of chemicals hit her. She thought about the girl at the party, Jessica. The way Jason looked at her. As she thought about the 158 lbs notification on his phone, she took a pill. She swallowed it with tap water. Just one, she thought. Just to make him stop looking at me with disgust. By 11:00 a.m., Emily felt like her heart was trying to punch through her ribcage. She was at the playground with Leo. Her hands were shaking so hard she couldn't open Leo's juice box. Sweat was pouring down her back, cold and clammy. Tachycardia. The world tilted. The screams of the children on the slide sounded distorted, like underwater echoes. Mommy, Leo tugged at her leggings. Mommy, you're vibrating. Emily dropped to her knees in the wood chips. She couldn't breathe. The Thermo Shred was interacting with her anxiety meds, or maybe her exhaustion. It was a chemical storm. I need to sit down, she gasped. She sat on a bench, clutching her chest. She checked her pulse on her Apple Watch. 140 BPM, resting. She closed her eyes. I am going to die, she thought. I am going to die of a heart attack in a playground because my husband thinks I'm fat. The absurdity of it hit her. It was terrifying, but it was also clarifying. She pulled the orange bottle out of her diaper bag. She looked at the safe and herbal label. She Googled the ingredients on her phone. Warning not for use by nursing mothers. Side effects include heart palpitations, anxiety, and stroke. He knew, or he didn't care to check. Either way, his desire for a trophy wife was greater than his concern for her life. She stood up. The dizziness swirled, but she pushed through it. She walked to the trash can. She threw the bottle in. It landed with a hollow thud on top of a half-eaten hot dog. Come on, Leo, she said, her voice trembling but firm. We're going home. When they got home, the house was empty. Jason was at a client lunch. Emily put Leo down for a nap. Her heart was still racing, but the anger was outpacing the fear. She went into Jason's home office. Usually this was forbidden territory. My sanctuary, he called it. She sat at his dual monitor setup. It was locked, but Emily knew Jason. He was a creature of habit. He was a narcissist. His password wouldn't be random. It would be something about him. She tried Jason Architect. Incorrect. She tried Winning Eyes Everything. Incorrect. She tried Fit Life 88, access granted. The screen blinked to life. His email was open. Emily didn't want to look, but she had to. She needed to know the extent of the rot. She didn't find emails to Jessica the intern. That would have been too cliché. She found something worse. She found a folder labeled Inspo Inspiration. Inside were hundreds of photos, not of buildings, not of architecture. They were screenshots from Instagram, TikTok, and OnlyFans. Hundreds of women. Some were fitness influencers. Some were local girls. Some were Emily's friends from college. He had cropped their bodies, zoomed in on body parts. And then she saw the bank notifications in a separate tab. OnlyFans, 50B, OnlyFans, 50D, OnlyFans, 50D, OnlyFans. 100.0, custom request chatterbait. Doisetsai Venmodo, Lexifit. Doisetsai Venmo to Lexifit. Doisetsai Venmoto Lexif IT. 500 hours. Emily scrolled. The dates went back months. While he was denying her a piece of bread at dinner to save calories, he was spending thousands of dollars on digital women. While he was telling her they needed to save money for Leo's college fund, he was tipping cam girls to say his name and the custom requests. She clicked on one of the email receipts. Request to Lexi Fit. Can you wear the blue leggings and pretend you're ignoring me while you work out? I like the bratty look. Emily covered her mouth. A sob escaped raw and jagged. It wasn't just lust. It was objectification. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a doll he could control. He wanted women who were pixels on a screen, perfect, silent, and compliant. Real women with C-section scars, with breast milk, with opinions, repulsed him. She heard the front door open. Panic surged. She was in the lion's den. She quickly closed the windows, wiped the browser history, her hands shaking violently, and stood up. She met him in the hallway. Jason looked flushed, happy. He smelled of wine. Hey, babe. He beamed. Great lunch. Closed a huge deal. How was the playground? Did you take the booster? He looked at her. He scanned her body, looking for immediate results. Emily stood there. She felt the ghost of the heart palpitations in her chest. She looked at this man, this handsome, successful, charismatic man, and she saw a monster. I took it, she lied, and it made me feel energetic. See? Jason grinned, walking past her to the kitchen. Daddy knows best. Keep taking them. By summer, you'll be able to fit into your old wedding dress. Wouldn't that be nice? He opened the fridge. Where's my sparkling water? Emily watched his back. Jason, she said. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Hollow. Detached. Yeah. I saw the credit card bill. Jason froze. He didn't turn around. The air in the kitchen dropped 10 degrees. Which one? The one with the OnlyFans charges and the Venmo to Lexi. He turned around slowly. The smile was gone. His face was a mask of cold fury. This was it. The confrontation. You were snooping, he said, low, dangerous. You spent $3,000, Jason. We have a toddler. You yelled at me for buying organic berries last week because they were too expensive. That is my money. Jason stepped closer. He used his height to intimidate her. I earn it. I spend it. It's stress relief, Emily. Do you know the pressure I'm under? It's cheating, Jason. It is not cheating. He slammed his hand on the counter. It's entertainment. It's no different than watching Netflix. I'm not sleeping with them. I'm looking at them. Because at home, what do I have to look at? He gestured at her with disgust. Look at you, Emily. You're wearing sweatpants. You have spit up on your shoulder. You're a mess. Do you blame me for wanting to see something beautiful for 5 minutes a day? The cruelty was breathtaking. It stripped her naked. I gave you a son, Emily whispered, tears streaming down her face. My body changed because I gave you a family. And you used that as an excuse to give up, Jason sneered. Those girls on the screen, they work for it. They respect themselves. You just exist. He walked past her, bumping her shoulder hard. Don't bring this up again. If you want me to stop looking at them, give me a reason to look at you. He went into the living room and turned on the TV. Emily stood in the kitchen. She wasn't sad anymore. The sadness had burned away in the fire of his words. She felt something new. She felt disgust. She looked at her reflection in the oven door. She didn't see a mess. She saw a woman who had survived childbirth. She saw a woman who had almost died today from his poison pills. She went to the sink and washed her face. Give me a reason to look at you, he had said. Oh, I will, she thought. I'll give you a reason to watch me walk away. She walked over to the trash can where she had thrown the bottle earlier in her mind. She realized she had thrown it at the park, but the sentiment remained. She went to the pantry. She grabbed the bag of organic chocolate chips she hid for baking. She ate a handful, not out of stress, but out of rebellion. She went upstairs to the bedroom. She pulled out her phone. She didn't open Instagram. She opened a new browser tab. Search divorce lawyer, narcissistic abuse, digital infidelity. The first step of the exit is realizing you are in a cage. The second step is realizing the door isn't locked, you just have to be brave enough to push it open. Emily pushed. The suitcase was only half full when the lights went out. Not a power outage, a targeted strike. The smart lights in the bedroom flickered and died. Then the Wi-Fi router downstairs blinked red. Emily stood in the darkness clutching a stack of Leo's diapers. Her phone buzzed, a notification from the Smart Home app. Administrator Jason has restricted access to lighting HVAC security internet. He was shutting down the house around her, like a captain sinking his own ship to drown the mutineers. She didn't panic. The panic had burned out yesterday in the kitchen. She felt a cold, grim determination. She used the flashlight on her phone to finish packing. She walked downstairs. Jason was sitting on the Italian leather sofa lit only by the glow of his iPad. He looked like a villain in a techno thriller. "You're really doing this?" he asked, not looking up. "Walking out on a life most women would kill for—" "I'm walking out on a lie, Jason." He laughed. It was a cruel, wet sound. "You have no money, Emily." I checked the joint account. "You have, what, $200? Good luck renting a cardboard box in Chicago with that. I'll figure it out. And the cards." Jason tapped his screen. "Canceled. Reported lost. So don't try to fill up your gas tank on my dime." Emily gripped the handle of her suitcase. "I don't want your money. I want my dignity." Jason finally looked at her. His eyes were empty. The eyes of a man who sees people as appliances. When the toaster breaks, you don't fix it. You throw it out. You'll be back. He sneered. "Give it a week. You'll be back begging me to let you sleep on the floor. And when you do, Emily, the rules are going to change. No more access to the internet. No more friends. You're going to earn your keep." It was a threat. A promise of total enslavement. Emily opened the front door. The wind from Lake Michigan hit her face sharp and biting. It felt like freedom. "Goodbye, Jason." She slammed the door. She didn't look back at the penthouse. She dragged the suitcase to her old Honda Civic, the car he had forced her to keep because he didn't want her driving his Tesla. As she drove away, Leo sleeping in the back seat, her phone pinged. A notification from Instagram. She shouldn't have looked, but she did. Jason had posted a story, a black screen with white text. "Sad day. Sometimes mental illness wins. Praying for my wife as she battles her demons. Please respect our privacy while I protect our son." The smear campaign. He was painting her as the unstable one. He was controlling the narrative before she could even tell her side. Emily threw the phone onto the passenger seat. Let him talk. She had a life to save. Day 4. Maya's apartment in Wicker Park smelled of incense and cat litter. It was a third-floor walk-up cluttered with art supplies and vintage furniture. It was the complete opposite of Jason's sterile glass box. Maya, Emily's college roommate, poured cheap wine into a mug. "He posted again," Maya said, scrolling through her phone. "He's at the gym. Caption, 'Pain is fuel. Grinding while others quit.'" God, he's insufferable. "He's blocked," Emily said, sitting on the futon that was now her bed. "I need a job, Maya. I can't stay here forever. Your cat hates me. Sir Pounce hates everyone. Stay as long as you need. I need money. Leo needs daycare. I need to be an architect again." Emily opened her laptop. She had spent the last 3 days updating her portfolio. It was thin. Her last major project was 5 years ago before Jason convinced her that her place was supporting his vision. She had an interview at 2:00 p.m., a mid-sized firm downtown. The interview was a disaster. The principal architect, a man in his 50s with thick glasses, flipped through her portfolio quickly. Too quickly. "These renderings are classic," he said. Classic was code for dated. "I've been on a sabbatical," Emily explained, keeping her voice steady, "raising my son. But I've kept up with the software. Revit, AutoCAD. A 5-year gap." The man sighed, closing the folder. "Listen, Emily, you have talent. But this industry moves fast. We're looking for someone who can hit the ground running. Someone with hunger." He looked at her rumpled blazer bought from a thrift store yesterday and the dark circles under her eyes. He didn't see hunger. He saw exhaustion. "We have an opening for an administrative assistant," he offered. "Answering phones, scheduling. It pays $18 an hour." Emily felt the sting of tears. She had graduated cum laude. She had designed a library in her senior year. "I'm an architect," she said firmly. "Not on paper," he replied brutally. "Not anymore." Emily walked out. The city felt huge and crushing. The skyscrapers she used to admire now felt like walls keeping her out. She sat on a bench in Millennium Park. She checked her bank account. 40 T15. She couldn't be an architect today. She just needed to be a mother who could buy milk. She opened an app on her phone, TaskRabbit. It was the gig economy, the desperate economy. She created a profile, Services, home organization, furniture assembly, staging. She got a ping within 10 minutes. Urgent need help staging a condo for an open house. Heavy lifting required. 25 hours today at 4 p.m. Heavy lifting. Jason's voice echoed in her head. You're weak. You have no muscle tone. Emily typed, I'll be there. The condo was a luxury unit, not unlike the one she had fled. The real estate agent, a frantic woman named Linda, pointed to a stack of boxes and furniture wrapped in plastic. The stagers bailed on me, Linda yelled into her Bluetooth headset. Then to Emily, honey, I need that sectional sofa moved to the living room, the rug laid out, and these bookshelves assembled. Open house is at 6. Can you do it? Emily looked at the sofa. It was a beast, white linen. Heavy. Yes, Emily said. For the next 2 hours, Emily didn't think. She worked. She dragged the sofa across the hardwood floor, her muscles screaming. She assembled the bookshelves, the Allen wrench digging into her blistered fingers. She unpacked decorative books and fake plants. She sweated. Her hair frizzed. Her makeup melted. But she didn't stop. At 5:45 p.m., the room looked perfect. It looked like a home. A fake home, but a beautiful one. Linda walked in, clapping her phone shut. She stopped. Wow, Linda said. You have an eye. You didn't just move the furniture. You arranged the flow, the light hitting the reading nook. That's genius, I'm an architect, Emily said, wiping sweat from her forehead with her sleeve. Linda looked at her differently. Really? What are you doing? Assembling IKEA shelves for $20. Rebuilding, Emily said. Linda pulled a wad of cash from her purse. Here's $100. Keep the change. And here's my card. I have 3 other listings that need help this week. You want the gig? I want the gig, Emily said, taking the cash. It was 4 $20 bills. It wasn't much. It was a fraction of what Jason spent on a bottle of wine. But as Emily walked to the subway station clutching the money, she felt something strange. She felt strong. She looked at her reflection in the subway window. She saw the frizzy hair. She saw the sweat stains. But she also saw her arms. They were trembling from the exertion, but they had lifted a sofa. They had built a room. Muscle tone, she whispered to herself. How's that for muscle tone, Jason? That night, back at Maya's, Emily fed Leo macaroni and cheese. It was the boxed kind, orange and salty. Mom, this is yummy. Leo said, cheese smeared on his chin. Can we have this every night? Maybe not every night, bud. Leo looked around the cluttered apartment. Are we going home soon? Dad said he bought me a new Xbox. The bribe. Love bombing by proxy. Dad is trying to buy you, Leo, Emily wanted to say. Instead, she said, we're on an adventure. Remember, this is Camp Maya. After Leo fell asleep, Emily sat at the kitchen table. She didn't open Instagram. She knew Jason would be posting photos of a steak dinner or a selfie with Jessica trying to make her jealous. She opened a notebook. She began to sketch. Not a building. A logo. Emily Vance. Interiors and staging. If I can't build the walls yet, she thought I'll decorate the rooms inside them. She logged into LinkedIn. She updated her status. Not unemployed. Founder, lead designer at Vance Interiors. It was a bluff, a fake-it-till-you-make-it move. But in America, perception was reality. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw your post about mental health. Just wanted to say, hope you get help. Jason is a good guy. Don't ruin him. It was a friend of Jason's, a flying monkey sent to harass her. Emily stared at the screen. The urge to reply, to defend herself, to scream the truth about the porn, the pills, the abuse was overwhelming. But she remembered what she had read about narcissists. They feed on reaction. She deleted the text. She blocked the number. She picked up her pencil. She went back to sketching. She drew a floor plan of a house, her future house. It had big windows, a garden for Leo, and a kitchen where she could eat bread whenever the hell she wanted. She took a bite of the leftover mac and cheese. It tasted like freedom. The sound of a staple gun is satisfying. Thwack. It sounds like finality. Emily was on her knees in a vacant loft in the West Loop. She was reupholstering a vintage chair for a client. Her hands, once soft and manicured, were now calloused. There was a smear of paint on her cheek. She looked tired, but she looked alive. Excuse me, Emily Bennett. Emily froze. She turned around. A man in a cheap windbreaker was standing in the open doorway. He wasn't a client. He held a thick envelope. Yes. You've been served. He tossed the envelope onto the newly refinished coffee table and walked out. Emily stared at it. The seal of the Cook County Circuit Court. She opened it. Her eyes scanned the legalese, her heart hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Petition for sole custody. Plaintiff Jason Bennett. Defendant Emily Bennett. Grounds 1. Defendant is homeless and unemployed. 2. Defendant has a history of erratic behavior and mental instability. 3. Defendant has exposed the minor child to unsafe living conditions. He was doing it. He was nuking her life. He wasn't just divorcing her. He was trying to erase her as a mother. She sank onto the floor, the papers crinkling under her grip. Mental instability. That was his narrative. Because she cried when he insulted her body, because she took anxiety meds after he drove her to panic attacks. Her phone buzzed, a text from Jason. I tried to be nice, Em, but you left me no choice. I'm protecting Leo. Don't bother fighting. My lawyer eats little girls like you for breakfast. Emily didn't cry. The tears had dried up somewhere between the pawn shop and the first night at Maya's apartment. She stood up. She picked up the staple gun. Thwack. She drove a staple into the wood. Thwack. Another one. He wants a war, she thought. I'll give him a war. But I won't fight dirty. I'll fight smart. He's a textbook narcissist using the legal system as a whip. We call it legal abuse. Marcus Sterling was not a warm man. He was a shark in a three-piece suit. His office smelled of leather and intimidation. He cost $450 an hour, and Emily was paying him with the last of her savings and a loan from her parents. He wants sole custody, Emily said, her voice shaking slightly. He says I'm unstable. Of course he does. Marcus flipped through the petition. It's the standard playbook. Darvo. Deny attack, reverse victim and offender. He's the stable provider. You're the crazy ex-wife. He has the house. You have a futon. Marcus leaned forward. Here is the strategy, Emily. It's called parallel parenting. You do not engage. You do not explain. You do not defend. But he lies. He tells everyone, let him lie. Marcus cut her off. In court, feelings don't matter. Facts matter. Financials matter. You said he controls the money. Yes. He gives me an allowance. And you said he spends thousands on digital entertainment. Yes. Marcus smiled. It was a terrifying smile. Then we initiate discovery. We subpoena everything. Bank statements, credit card records, Venmo history, browser history. If he claims you're unfit because you're poor, we're going to prove he's unfit because he's financially hemorrhaging family assets on pornography. He'll go crazy if we expose that, Good Marcus said. We want him crazy. We want him to lose that cool, charming mask in front of a judge. We need to trigger a narcissistic collapse. The visitation exchange, Friday at 6:00 p.m., the neutral ground, a Starbucks parking lot. Emily stood by her battered Honda Civic. Leo was in the back seat clutching his backpack. Remember, Emily whispered to herself, gray rock. Be a rock. Be boring. Be nothing. Jason's Tesla pulled up silently. He stepped out. He looked like he had just walked off a GQ shoot. Sunglasses, fitted polo loafers, and he wasn't alone. The passenger door opened. Jessica, the intern, stepped out. She was wearing workout clothes that looked brand new. She smiled at Emily, a pitying, superior smile. Triangulation. He brought the new supply to provoke a reaction. He wanted Emily to scream, to cry, to make a scene, so he could record it and send it to his lawyer. Emily felt the bile rise in her throat, but she forced her face into a mask of indifference. She opened the back door. Hi, Leo. Daddy's here. Leo climbed out. He looked from Emily to Jason, sensing the tension. Hey, buddy, Jason boomed, ignoring Emily completely. Ready for the weekend? Jessica and I are going to take you to the water park. Hi, Emily. Jessica chirped, stepping too close. You look tired. Have you been sleeping? It was a trap. Emily looked at Jessica, not with anger, but with a blank stare. She looked through her. Leo has his inhaler in the front pocket, Emily said to the air. He needs it before bed. Pick up his Sunday at 5 p.m. She turned to get back in her car. Hey, Jason barked. He didn't like being ignored. Don't walk away when I'm talking to you. Look at this car, Emily. It's a rust bucket. Is this safe for my son? Maybe I should call CPS right now. Emily paused. She turned around slowly. She didn't defend the car. She didn't explain. Sunday. 5 p.m., she repeated. Monotone. Robot voice. She got in the car, locked the door, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, she saw Jason standing there, red-faced. He was yelling something at her retreating bumper. Jessica looked awkward. He didn't get his supply. He didn't get his drama. Emily exhaled. Her hands were shaking on the steering wheel, but she felt a strange rush of power. She had denied the vampire his blood. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. The silence of the apartment without Leo was deafening. She opened her laptop. She needed to work. She had 3 staging gigs lined up for next week. She logged into her Emily Vance Interiors Instagram account. She had gained 200 followers last week. People liked her before and after transformation videos. She saw a new comment on her latest post. User Chicago Design Truth comment. Beware of this designer. She stole furniture from her previous employer and has a drug problem. Unprofessional and unstable. Do not hire. Her heart stopped. She clicked on the profile. Fake account created today. 0 followers, Jason or one of his friends. She refreshed the page. Another comment. User safety. First mom comment. I heard she lost custody of her kid because she endangered him. Why would you let her in your house? He was attacking her livelihood. He was trying to starve her out. Panic flared. If her client saw this, she was dead. She was building this business on trust. She wanted to reply. She wanted to scream, "It's a lie." My ex-husband is an abuser. But she stopped. Her hand hovered over the keyboard. We want him crazy, Marcus had said. If she replied, she looked defensive. If she engaged, she fed the troll. Instead, she took a screenshot. She emailed it to Marcus with the subject line, "Evidence of harassment, tortious interference with business." Then she deleted the comments, and she blocked the accounts. She didn't stop there. She needed to know why he was escalating. Usually a narcissist escalates when they feel threatened. She logged into the encrypted cloud drive where she had saved the financial documents from Chapter 3. She looked deeper. She wasn't an accountant, but she was an architect. She knew how to look for structural failures. She looked at the mortgage statements. Current balance $850,000. Original loan $600,000. He had refinanced twice. He had pulled equity out of the penthouse. Where did the money go? She cross-referenced with the credit card statements. Luxury car lease $1 $200 month, country club membership $800 month, Taylor $3,000, watches, trips, and the OnlyFans charges. They weren't just a few thousand. Over 5 years, they totaled nearly $40,000. But there was something else. Loan payment, Sharkey Lending LLC, interest rate 25%. Jason wasn't rich. He was insolvent. He was living on a mountain of debt to maintain the image of a millionaire. The penthouse was underwater. The Tesla was leased. The suits were bought on credit. Emily sat back in her chair. He wasn't fighting for custody because he loved Leo. He was fighting for custody because he needed to claim Leo as a dependent to get tax breaks. Or worse, he couldn't afford child support. If Emily got custody, he would have to pay her. And he had no money to pay. The realization hit her like a sunrise. He wasn't a monster under the bed. He was a man in a costume standing on stilts, terrifying everyone into thinking he was a giant. But the stilts were made of debt, and Emily just found the saw. She picked up her phone. She didn't call Jason. She called Linda, the real estate agent who gave her the first job. "Linda, it's Emily. I know it's late." "Emily, is everything okay? I have a favor to ask. You know the market better than anyone. Can you pull the comps on my ex-husband's building? I think it's about to go into foreclosure." "Honey." Linda's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "I heard rumors. He missed his HOA fees 3 months in a row. They're threatening a lien." Emily smiled in the dark. "Thank you, Linda." She hung up. She looked at the petition for sole custody lying on the table. It didn't look scary anymore. It looked desperate. She went to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water. She caught her reflection in the window. She was wearing an old t-shirt, no makeup. She wasn't Instagram perfect, but for the first time in years, she felt solid. She wasn't a filter. She was real. And reality always wins in the end. 18 months later, the loft in the West Loop was buzzing. It was the grand opening of the Vance Collective, Emily's new design studio and showroom. The space was breathtaking. Exposed brick industrial beams softened by velvet textures and warm lighting. It was imperfect, authentic, and real, just like Emily's design philosophy. Emily moved through the crowd of potential clients and city officials. She wore a jumpsuit, not black to hide, but emerald green silk that caught the light. It was sleeveless. Her arms were not stick-thin like the Instagram models Jason worshipped. They were soft, but they were strong. She held a glass of champagne in one hand and a mini grilled cheese sandwich in the other. A year ago, she would have panicked about the calories in the cheese. Tonight, she took a bite, savoring the crunch. It tasted like victory. Emily Linda, the real estate agent who had given her that first staging gig, pushed through the crowd. "Honey, look at this place. You did it. I heard you just landed the contract for the new boutique hotel. Signed it this morning." Emily smiled. "We start renovations next month. And how is Leo thriving? He loves his new school. He loves being calm." They clinked glasses. "By the way," Linda lowered her voice, her eyes darting to the entrance. "Don't look now, but the ghost of bad decisions just walked in." Emily turned slowly. Standing by the entrance, looking out of place among the art crowd, was Jason. He looked diminished. The expensive suit was still there, but it looked tired. His face was puffy, the bloating of stress and perhaps too much alcohol. The sharp predatory edge was gone, replaced by a frantic energy. He wasn't supposed to be here. The restraining order had expired last week, and they operated on a strict parallel parenting schedule. Emily handed her glass to Linda. "Hold this. I'll handle him." "Do you want me to call security?" "No," Emily said, smoothing her jumpsuit. "I don't need security. I'm the security." She walked toward him. She didn't rush. She glided. Jason saw her coming. He straightened up, putting on the old mask, the smirk, the appraisal. "Well, well," Jason said, his eyes scanning her body up and down. "Green. Bold choice. You've put on a few pounds since the divorce, haven't you?" I guess the stress eating kicked in. It was his opening move. The insult. He was testing the old buttons to see if they still worked. Emily stopped 3 feet away from him. She didn't flinch. She didn't pull her stomach in. "Hello, Jason. You're crashing my party. I'm just checking on my investment." He sneered. "I assume my alimony checks helped pay for this little hobby shop." Emily laughed. It was a rich, throaty sound that made people turn their heads in admiration. "Jason, you haven't paid alimony in 6 months. My lawyer is garnishing your wages directly from your new employer. Or, are you between jobs again?" Jason's face flushed a deep, ugly red. "The injury." "I'm consulting," he snapped. "The market is volatile, but I didn't come here to talk business. I came to tell you that I'm taking Leo to Miami for spring break. Jessica and I booked the tickets." "Jessica left you 3 months ago," Jason Emily said calmly. "She DM'd me. She wanted to know if you made me take the diet pills too. We had a nice long talk." Jason froze. The color drained from his face. His triangulation strategy had backfired. The women were talking. The isolated victims had formed a union. You turned her against me." "You turned her against yourself," Emily corrected. "And about Miami, no. The court order says you can't take Leo out of state without my permission. And considering you're currently living in a studio apartment and driving a leased car you can't afford, I don't think a luxury vacation is in the budget." Jason took a step closer, his hands balling into fists. The mask slipped completely. "You think you're so special," he hissed, spittle flying. "Look at you. You're average, Emily. You're a 6 out of 10 at best. You think these people care about you? They're just here for the free booze. You'll always be the fat girl who got lucky. The old Emily would have crumbled. The old Emily would have heard fat girl and wanted to die." The new Emily looked at him with something worse than hate. She looked at him with pity. "You know what, Jason?" she said, her voice loud enough for the nearby guests to hear. "I am average. I have stretch marks. I have cellulite. I get tired." She took a step closer to him, invading his space. "But I am real. I am high resolution. You're just a filter. You're a glitch, and glitches get deleted." She turned to the security guard standing by the door, a large man named Marcus. "Marcus. This gentleman is leaving." Jason looked around. He saw the eyes of the room on him, not admiring eyes, mocking eyes. He opened his mouth to say something to regain control to launch one last smear campaign, but he had nothing. His ammo was gone. He turned and walked out into the cold Chicago night. He looked small. He looked like a man who had scrolled past the best thing in his life and couldn't swipe back. "That was brutal," a deep voice said behind her, "and beautiful." Emily turned. It was Alex. Alex was the structural engineer she worked with on the hotel project. He was 40 with graying hair at the temples and hands that looked like they actually built things. He wasn't a model. He wore flannel shirts and laughed with his whole body. He deserved it. Emily said, her adrenaline fading into a warm hum. Alex handed her a fresh glass of champagne. "You okay? I'm better than okay. I'm hungry." Alex grinned. "Well, I know a place that does deep dish pizza, the real kind, with the grease and the carbs. Are you brave enough?" Emily looked at Alex. When Jason looked at her, he saw flaws to be fixed. When Alex looked at her, he just saw her. "I'm brave enough," Emily said. They walked out of the gallery together. Outside, the wind off the lake was fierce, messing up Emily's hair. She didn't smooth it down. She let it be wild. She thought about the phone in her purse. She hadn't checked Instagram all day. She didn't need to see what the fit goddesses were doing. She didn't need to compare her behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. She looked at her reflection in the shop window as they passed. She saw the emerald jumpsuit. She saw the curves. She saw the smile lines around her eyes. She didn't wish she was half the woman she was. She was finally completely whole.